Hello, 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 and welcome to Talk About It Tuesday. Oh my gosh, today is going to be such a treat. I'm so freaking stoked for you to talk to Kiera Doyle, founder of Meeting Your Magic. We're going to talk about how your magic is your energy. It's going to be super high vibe. It's going to be inspirational and special. And Kiera is like a dear friend of mine, and I'm just so excited to bring her on. And just before I do, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Tosca Di Matteo, founder of Tosca Coaching and Consulting, and I do this platform in service of helping you live your best life and in service of helping you be the leader that you want to be. So let me bring Kiera on. Yes. All right, let's see. Hold on. Getting the technology together. There we go. There we go. Hey.
Hey.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh. So excited to have you here. Thank you so much for making the time to have this conversation.
I'm so excited to be here. I always forget when you do lives with someone how far back you
Yeah,
kind of
like,
have to be from your screen. Luckily,
yeah.
I have a rolling chair, so I could just
Oh,
I
I
could
love
just
it.
keep
There.
going.
Oh my gosh, you look stunning today. Your hair is gorgeous. You just like, you always look radiant. Every time I'm in your presence, I just feel like the light
The
is
same to
shining.
you. The same to you. You look beautiful today. I'm so excited for our conversation.
Oh my gosh, so am I. And I just, before you came on, I was just sharing a little bit about this platform. And you know what? For those of you watching, Kiara was actually my first guest back in August of 2020. And we have just become even closer friends since then. And a lot has changed for you in your life. So I'm excited to have you back and have a different, even different conversation from what we had. Um, I just want to take this moment to say how deep in gratitude I am for your friendship over the past year, supporting me in the entrepreneurial journey, and how um, important it's been to have your guidance and just your support. It's been a tough year, and it's a tough path. Entrepreneurship is not for the timid. So I just want to say thank you, and I'm so excited for the audience today to hear what you want to share with the world. So without further ado, I want to pass it over to you to introduce yourself, whatever you feel comfortable with, who you are, where you come from, like what's your jam, just a little bit of your personal story, your background, so folks kind of get to know you a little bit more.
Well, thank you so much, Tosca. And I mirror all of that back to you. You have been such an incredible support system for me. And I was thinking back on this morning, like we knew each other because you've been on the entrepreneur game for a little while, but I actually met you when you were still working on the corporate side as well. I remember you had told us you had like your date. You were like, I'm going to do it by this date. I have to make a decision. Because what can happen, I'm sure as most of us are really familiar with, is we can kind of just get comfortable where we are. And you held my hand through that process and held me accountable every single time I just decided, like, I think it'd just be easier if I stayed a little bit longer because I have a lot of responsibility. I thought I was the most important person at my job, obviously, because it was had to be me. I had to do it or it could never happen. And Tosca always kind of helped me see the light. And I'm so grateful to you. Thank you so much. Like, it's been the fact that I'm here talking to you at noon on a Tuesday has so much to do with you, and the space that you held for me over
Oh,
this past year. So thank you.
oh my
And
gosh. Well, I hope you feel that same way in like a year from now. I'm sure you will.
So to answer your question earlier, a little bit about me. Hello to everyone watching. I'm Kiera Doyle. I am born and raised in Rhode Island and went to college in Boston, and then I moved to New York City. I am a multifaceted human. I have so many different passions, and by the time that I was 26, I had played around in like five different potential careers. I was a writer, I did PR, I became a yoga instructor. Then I started working as a hairdresser, and then I found myself in a corporate America position. working on beauty education. And I was writing, I was facilitating, and I got to do some like networking and sales. And I felt like, oh my gosh, here I am. I'm bringing like, this is the job of my life. Like I have the job of this is clearly what I was getting ready for, was this, because all of my winding paths just seemed to make sense. And I ended up staying at that company for 7 years. And throughout my journey there, I ended up feeling really lost along the way. Just a couple of years in, I realized that I was getting that itch again. And instead of in the past, because before I was just in my early 20s, I felt like I could just like kind of, let me try something else. At this point, I was like, I'm almost 30. Actually, I think I was 30. I think I had just turned 30. And I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like I can't keep flaking out on stuff. And I'm finally getting headway and finally getting traction, and I'm, getting promoted and all these things. And like, why do I feel restless again? Why do I feel empty again? And I just kind of put out in the universe, like, I'm ready to figure out what I'm really here to do if it's not this, because I can't change again. It was a lot of shame. There was a lot of shame. And I remember thinking like, well, the next thing I find better be like the thing. If there's something else, it better be the thing, because if it's not this, like, what am I going to do? This is around the time I found human design. And human design is, if you haven't heard of it before, it's kind of like astrology, like on steroids. It's the coolest thing in the entire world. It uses your birth information to generate a body graph. And it's all about energy and how we exchange energy with the world. And what I ended up finding out is that I'm energetically designed to be a multi-hyphenated human, to have multiple passions and careers. And actually, the biggest thing for me is about following my gut and listening to what lights me up. And when something doesn't light me up, like, it's okay, you can actually move on from it. So it was the freedom and the permission slip I needed to say, like, I'm actually going to start going down the rabbit hole of what interests me, which at the time was human design. I started looking into human design, reading human design charts for other people, and kind of helping people navigate their energy. And that is what led me here. Was I found like, I love this. This is so cool. And while I've given myself permission over and over and over again, like, if you don't want to do human design anymore, you don't have to. Every day I still go back to the work, like, more excited than I've ever been to be a part of it, because it is so transformative. There's so many layers to it. Working with people, like, I just feel like I can't get enough of it. And the way I facilitate human design and the way I read is like still blending modalities together from other things I've done. So there's so much freedom in the work itself. Like, there's so much freedom and there's so much fun in the work itself. So that's the long story about me and how I came to be here.
Oh no, I love it. There's so much richness there. And one of the things that I feel compelled to just kind of pull out is, early on in your career, you mentioned like bouncing around, and like that wasn't easy. Like I remember us talking about some of the hardship that you endured in like moving to New York, and and I'm curious how those early struggles impacted the decision that you made later, right? When you, like you mentioned, like you found a thing, and it's like, why leave this? Like, um, and because I think sometimes we take the past with us, and that dictates a lot of our future because we don't realize what pattern we're in. So I'm just curious if any of those early struggles impacted how you viewed opportunities, how you view your path.
Oh, such a good question. I think there's actually two layers of my past. There was my past that I personally lived, and then there was my lineage that I had seen and witnessed. So from a very young age, I watched my grandfather be incredibly successful working for a big company. Like, I used to travel around with him, and he would take us to conventions, and he knew everyone's name, and he would wear a suit and had a briefcase, and he would travel. And I just thought it was the coolest thing in the entire world. He ended up retiring with that company. He worked his way up, like, to a more executive position. He was just like, he loved work and he loved what he did. And then my mom followed in those footsteps as well. She was like unbelievable. She worked her way up to almost one of the highest women at the time in her company. And she had, 35 years with corporate America, and ended up retiring and then going to work in nonprofit. But again, it was still very much like the business professional, the suit, the thing, the vibe. Like, I think I saw that and I respected who my mom and grandfather were so much on such a deep level. And I saw them really connecting to something that lit them up and they were passionate about. And I think I knew it was really reinforced for me that this would be a good way to have and build a life. Like if I went down that road, this would be a really solid foundation to retire, to have a company car, to have like the 401k, all the things I needed. Like I could see that from a young age. Whereas my father was an entrepreneur and he struggled a lot well, billing was always his problem. He never wanted to bill his clients. Like he would go work for free. And eventually he ended up going in and getting a job that he wasn't too happy about. So I looked at, I think, entrepreneurship as unstable, and corporate is very stable. And then what ended up happening to me in my early 20s, I took a leap. I was working at a corporate job at the time. I took a leap, but I had like nothing in my bank account. I was going off of a dream. I just was like, I want to do PR. I want to work with businesses and help them. And I quit my job with like really no game plan other than two clients that I had. One of them was paying me in cash and one of them was going to pay me in rent. And the exchange for my work was I was going to go live in an apartment in Hoboken, which I was thrilled about because I was living in Boston at the time. I was going to go live in Hoboken for 3 months, of work. And then my other client was paying me in cash. So I had like a check coming in and a place to live. And so I was like, oh, this is like I'm probably gonna move to New York. And I moved to this Hoboken apartment, and just like 2 weeks in, there's a knock on the door, and it's a man who comes into the apartment, and he ends up telling me like, this is my apartment. You need to leave. It turned out the girl that was my client was also a high class call girl on the side. And she didn't own the apartment. It was actually his apartment. It belonged to her sugar daddy. She pretended to own it to give it to me as exchange while he was in Europe, and he came home early from his trip. So he was supposed to be in Europe for 3 months. He came home early. So here I am living in like sugar daddy's apartment. So I ended up actually, I had a car there with me in the garage, and I put all my stuff in my car, and I didn't know if I should drive back to Boston or if I should drive back to Rhode Island, like what I was going to do. And I ended up meeting up with a friend, staying the night, and the next morning went and interviewed at the restaurant she worked at because they had an open position. So I started waiting tables on the side, but I was living on couches. And during that time, it was just like a complete crumbling of all of me. Like my identity was really low. I felt like my self-worth was really low. I felt like I had given up a really good job in Boston. And here I was, 24 years old, no money in the bank, sleeping on random people's couches, sometimes people I didn't even know, really living out of a car, working as a waitress. And of course, my PR company like dissolved because I didn't have my basic needs being met. I wasn't there. I struggled out of my position. I told myself a story around how hard I'd have to work to become stable. And I made sure that I found the evidence to prove myself right. Like I worked at a restaurant I really didn't like, lived on a couch then I moved into Manhattan on a different couch, moved to a new restaurant, built my way up there, got transferred to another restaurant. I mean, I think I spent like a good year and a half just like bouncing from couch to restaurant to get myself in a better position. Like I told myself this story, it's going to be hard. So it was a complete S show, to say the least. And the other theme that was running through my life, coming to life, was that I was doing work and I wasn't getting paid. So I lived like the full, like in my PR and writing side, I lived out my dad, like the struggle I had seen my dad go through. So with all this being said, by the time I got myself through cosmetology school and started working at a corporation, I was just like, I am so lucky to have
Mm.
stability. Like, I'm so lucky to have paid vacation. I am so lucky to have income. I'm lucky I got a company car. I'm lucky to like be someone to
Mm.
be, and being a server, by the way, is not like there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's how I saw myself in that position. Like, I now go to a restaurant and I see my server and I look in their eyes and I think, wow, they're beautiful, or they're so joyful, they're so charismatic. Like, I wonder like what cool life they have going on. I don't look at them like they're like the scum on the ground. I thought I was. Like, I thought
Mm.
that, like, I didn't even, like, I can't believe I have to, like, I'm serving you, but I don't even deserve to serve you. Like, I had a lot of self-worth
Mm.
stuff I had to work. But what happened for me in my position was that I automatically got to be someone. Like, I got
Mm.
a title, I had a team I was seeing after, I got to put up my business suit and my briefcase and go shake people's hands and say, like, hello, like, I'm Kiera Doyle, like, regional education manager. It was so exciting. So
Mm.
it was like from here to here in terms of self-worth. And then the problem became that I started believing that my worth came from that position.
Mm.
Like, I started to believe that's what made me worthy. Not who I
Mm.
was worthy, but like the job itself made me a valuable human.
Mm. Wow, like thank you for sharing that journey. One of the reasons why I love having these conversations is that messy middle, is to just, because if we just started with you had this amazing corporate job and then you decided to leave it and become an entrepreneur, right? Like it just doesn't have the richness of everything that you've gone through just to get to the point of finding your worth, of being able to see that, of how the struggle impacted you, and also how your your role models, like how that impacted you in good
Yeah.
and not so great ways, right? And just the view that it gave you on the world. And so then here you are, you've found some passion of your, you have lots of passions, but you found this passion, you found this, beauty industry, and it didn't take long, it sounds like, for you to then feel unfulfilled again, which I think happens to a lot of people. Like look at what you were just saying, oh my gosh, I got this title, I got this, this is what I'm doing. And so what do you think happened in terms of like where the fulfillment started to fade for you?
It's interesting. I think that I always thought when I got to a certain level or achieved a certain thing that like it would click for me. Like, I could go like, oh, it happened. Like,
Mm.
now that this has happened, I've made it. And it was actually after two big series of events that I considered to be milestones for me. One of them was in 2017, the day before my 30th birthday. I gave a TED Talk, which was like,
Mm.
I thought I had always wanted to do that. And I thought, oh my God, if I could ever be the kind of person who can give a TED Talk, like, I'll feel so accomplished. Like, I'll feel so at peace. I was reaching for something, I was reaching
Mm.
for it and I got it. And I remember waking up the next day and I remember feeling like nothing changed.
Mm.
And it was on my 30th
Yeah.
birthday, I remember just
Yeah.
being like, that didn't change anything. And about 6 months later, I had been asked to like one of the biggest beauty events that my company threw. And we had 2,000 hairdressers coming in, and I had been invited to teach a class, which was like the biggest honor for me. It was something I was like, oh my gosh, if I could ever touch that many people. And the class was on social media and branding, and I was hosting with a couple of stylists, but I got to like run the whole thing, and it was like it felt like my show, right? I was like, this is my show. And that ended. And I remember gripping, like trying to grip for the feeling that I had in the
Mm.
moment. I remember just being like, oh, it was such a high. It
Mm.
was it was like ascension. It was like, oh, I feel so good. And then it was like, I'm here. I remember a
Mm.
couple, like even weeks later, crying in my boss's office. And I was like, I don't want to wait for another moment like that to feel good again. But I feel like, and I mean, I've also felt so badly about feeling so bad. Like, I was just like, how
Mm.
can you feel bad? Like, you've gotten to do this super cool thing that no one else in the office is doing. Like, this, and I was so bummed out that I had to go back to like Excel spreadsheets and like social tracking and PowerPoint presentations for like executives. Like, I didn't want to do that anymore. I felt like I gotten a taste of like something really cool. And I felt like it was only available to me when someone else wanted to give it to me. Like,
Mm.
I still thought they put me there. I still thought like you put me here, which was true. Like, you did this. I mean, also I did it because they had to know that I would be able to teach the class and that I'm not just going to get up there and like I had to also prove myself. But I thought it was them. I really did. And I remember just feeling so, I felt so out of control. And I felt so like, I'm just going to have to wait until another opportunity
Mm.
like that comes around again before I can feel that level of fulfillment. It was within weeks of that I found human design because I started looking at all the
Oh.
things in me that made like maybe I need to fix something in here. That's what I remember having that realization. Like, maybe I need to fix something in here because I'm getting the things that I want. And when I'm getting them, they're not enough. And it was
Mm.
devastating. So I started listening to podcasts to like, I started going down the personal development rabbit hole. And that's where I ended up finding human design.
Wow. There's so much. Oh my God, there's just, first of all, so much resonance in what you're sharing and so much power because I think that people, like this happens to a lot of people, I think, where it's like this thing happens and then like,
Yeah.
and then like the next day it's like, oh, but now I can't access that. I mean, I'll speak for myself. Like I remember, and I've been literally having these conversations about like having an amazing day last week. And then like the next day I was just like in the crapper and it was just like, wait a minute, like what is happening here? And just wanting like, you know, I guess was my question is like, was it you were like, I want to feel that way all the time and you believe that that could be possible? Or was it that you realized you felt that way and it was just a moment in time and so you wanted to feel it more often? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it was more of like, I thought when I got there that something would change inside me.
Mm.
So I did want that next opportunity, absolutely. But I also, I fantasized that when I achieved that level of
Mm.
goal or success, that something inside of me would have changed and that I wouldn't feel so empty, that I wouldn't
Mm.
feel so lost, that I wouldn't feel like I was reaching because like
Mm.
I would have proved maybe just to me that I was good. When that internal shift didn't happen after the external experience, I had a very
Mm.
hard realization that nothing probably would shake it, that it wasn't going to come from anything I could do, have, or
Mm.
achieve. I remember even thinking like, it's not even going to matter how much money I make. It's not going to matter what title I get. Like, I wanted I wanted that TED talk over more things in my, like, I wanted that so badly, and it changed nothing.
Mm.
Like, it didn't change anything. I mean, it certainly was a learning experience, but in terms of how I felt about myself or like it
Mm.
that didn't shift. And so I think it was more of like, I think it was a blessing. I'll say this. I think it was a blessing to have my
Mm.
dreams realized early.
Mm.
Like, I'm so grateful that I didn't have to wait for the things I wanted to come true. Because when I got them, I realized that the work I had to do all along was actually on the inside.
Mm.
And I think a lot
Yeah.
of us wait and still fantasize that,
Yeah,
like,
like
when
this
I get
thing, if I
this,
just get this thing,
yeah,
girl, I'm in, like I feel like that's also my journey too, right? Because it's like it's the next and the next, but it's not. It comes from the internal work.
yeah,
So here you are. So here you are, you had these amazing experiences. You're like, oh crap, I gotta like look on the inside. You discover
Yeah.
human design, like it lights you up. I mean, and I met you, I think, at the very early stages of your discovery. I mean, you were just, and you're still this way. Like when you talk about human design people, like when you know somebody is like living like their purpose is like, Kiara, you light up a room. Like I think you maybe stole my birthday. Everybody wanted to like. No, I love it in the best possible way. It's like, yes, of course people want to talk to Kiara because like you're freaking magical and when you talk about what you do, it's like everybody wants to hear more because you just light up and I share that because like I think people feel like that's so inaccessible. It's like that's just like this utopia that can't exist. And I don't believe that. I'm not saying it's easy, but I think that like we can love our lives that much. We can love our vocation that much. Um, but so here you are, you have this job, you're still like doing work that you enjoy. It may not be TED Talks every day, but
Yeah.
and you were in parallel discover this other passion. So like now what?
Oh, there was a battle for a while. There was a battle because I was like, I don't know if I can, like, I had just decided like I want to do something. I decided I was gonna put my energy and resources towards starting a podcast for the beauty industry.
Mm,
So that was kind of like in the works, beauty therapy podcast, it was called. And then I find human design and I'm like, well, you know what? I love it, but I'm going to make it a side thing and it's only ever going to be a side thing. It's just going to be, it gave me enough, I'll say it gave me enough like feeling really good about who I was energetically.
mm,
And it gave me a lot of permission to be like, yeah, I can start a podcast if I want. Like, taught me how to harness my energy a little bit. And I was like, human design can just be on the side. Like this,
mm,
honestly, I thought the ability to give someone the gift of seeing themselves was the coolest gift you could ever give in the world.
mm,
But I didn't actually understand yet that it could be what I do. I kind of put the
mm,
human design readers on a huge pedestal, and the reader that I had found that I'd really looked up to, I was like, she's the one. I even
mm,
remember having conversations, people were saying, like, well, do you think you might ever want to do a podcast about human design? And I was like, no, she should do a podcast about human design. Like, everyone that was interested in it, I was like, go talk
mm.
to her. Like, I gave everyone her. I was like, she's the one. She's great. She's
Yes.
wonderful. And so it took me a really long time to realize I wanted
Mm,
to do it, but I don't even remember realizing I wanted to do it. I was just doing it. Like I
mm,
just couldn't stop talking about it. I was Googling, I put everything together to read my own chart. I started just sharing and reading for other people, but I never intended for it to become the thing. It just
mm.
started it just started coming in and kind of taking over. It just started
Yeah.
happening. It just started happening.
And you know what? And I just want to like pull out to that piece where you were sending people away. Like
Yes.
I did that too. Like there were people that were looking for like career coaches and like it never occurred to me like I could support them. And so I kept sending them to like my coach. And I think that's such a huge sign like you're attracting, right? You're attracting invitations and you're deflecting them, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Um so so then so you're kind of just being really filled up with this and you think, oh, but like but where do you sit in that realm of like human design experts? And so how did you come to your own to say, oh, like this is my jam, like this is my
Mm-hmm.
magic?
Yeah. I think it's while it was happening.
Mm,
I think it was while it was happening. I remember I read for a client a couple of months in. I started also the other thing that is interesting is I started getting clients like really
mm,
early in. And although I was, kind of saying, oh, you should go read for this person, she had a really long wait list. So people would be like, I
mm,
think I just want you to read for me. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I remember I didn't know like what to charge. I didn't know. It took me like 3 hours to prepare a reading for someone. To do a 1 hour session was like 4 hours for me because I was like, let me put all my notes together and then we'll. So I, have to do that. But people started referring me because it was just like there was no readers. There was no
mm,
one was doing it. And I remember I met with a client. Her name's Nof Hakim. She and I met in 2018. And she was like, I want to post about you on my Instagram stories, but I need you to put like that you're a human design reader in your bio.
Mm.
And I think you should change your Instagram handle. My handle was hair of the girl. Like I was like, I'm a beauty professional. I'm like, that's hair of the girl. So I remember thinking to myself, like, well, not going to change my handle. And like I told her, like I could put human design in my bio, but I'm really like trying to focus on the podcast. Like I remember still kind of even like arguing with her a little, not arguing, but just being like, no, I don't know. I don't think I need to do that. So she's like, okay, but she posted me, and then she ended up having a very big following. So I ended up getting a lot of people reaching out, and I think it started happening for me because I just was doing it. And the one thing I'll say that's different about this work than say the beauty industry. I love the beauty industry. I love doing hair. I love doing hair for other people, making other people feel really good. I didn't have to have the best hair to be a hairdresser. I actually can't take my head off of my body and foil my hair. I wish I could because that would save me so much money. But I can't. Like I can't do my own hair. And I I used to kind of just like I would color my hair sometimes at home, but I was just kind of like squeezing myself in. I always was in like the background. I was never the point of my passion. Like my passion was always about
Mm.
everyone else. But what's interesting with human design was like here I had these tools and this roadmap to
Mm.
understand myself and to know how to use my energy. And so, what also was kind of happening simultaneously while I was taking these other readings was I kept returning back to the information about me and I kept
Mm.
making changes energetically in my life to align myself to like who I can identify as my highest self. I kept tweaking stuff. An example would just be like I have a defined root center. And the more I learned about the root center, the more I understand that a root center actually really creates a ton of physical energy every single day. And so if you have a defined root, it's like very beneficial to move your body, right? And
Mm.
so I was like, what would happen if I just started making sure no matter what, I let myself move for 30 minutes or an hour a day? Like if I just always made sure I moved, or if I start feeling overwhelmed or anxious, if maybe I actually let it be because I need physical movement. I know that I have an open solar plexus, which means I take in other people's emotions. So I would be like, okay, what will happen when like my husband, then boyfriend and I are arguing? What would happen if I didn't let his emotions become my emotion? What would happen if I just like allowed myself to get some space and understand maybe he's having a bad day. Maybe what I'm feeling is actually his mood. And what I'm going to do is just like walk away, give myself some peace, take a salt bath, do something to actually care for myself. I started making a lot of decisions based off of like who I was in the work and what it meant for me. That transformed everything. Once I started having like my own results
Mm.
and noticing how I was showing up energetically different, well, it changed the way I work with clients right away. But it also was the thing, it went from me being like excited to tell people about it and excited for them to change to know the stuff to like, you have to listen to me. This is going to change your freaking life. Like, I'm so excited for you to share this information because when you do this, it's going to change everything. I started having a lot of those moments and I started seeing evidence that I was aligned and I
Mm.
longed for other people to feel the same way. And the
Mm.
one thing I'll say that still keeps me humble with human design is like, I can still be there. I can still be a support system for so many people. But if I don't do the work and I'm not in alignment, then I'm not leading in that way. And it works so much better when you're the example and people see you out there and they say like, what is it that you're doing? Because I need a, and I actually get asked this now, like, what is it that you do? Like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, it's human design. People just kind of
Mm.
like, what's with this energy? And I'm like, don't worry, I
Mm.
got you. Right. Whereas before I was like, can I tell you about it? Now people are like, what is it? Because I want to calibrate to it. And it's a totally different thing. So you kind of have to stay in the center of your priorities
Mm.
in this work.
Oh my gosh. I love that. And I share the very same sentiment with people, which is like, anybody who's being of service, whether you're a coach, whether you're a reader, whether you're whatever it is, psychic, I don't care. If you're in being in service of others,
Mhm.
my goodness, that could be anybody that deals with the public, right? Like if you're in service, then then if you're not doing the work on yourself, you're missing opportunities to really hold space for others. And that, to me, that's just a key indicator of like, yeah, for those of you who are like, oh, who should I work with? Or like, how do I know if this person is, going to be of service? Like, find out if they do the work on themselves.
Yeah.
Because, it's real, it's real. And you can be a guide to others because you know what that journey is like, and it's not a cakewalk, like what you're saying. Like, people are like, what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's beyond like your makeup routine. Like, there is something, like there's like something else. But it's hard freaking work to experiment, like you talked about. Like, it's uncomfortable to try something else,
Yeah.
and see what might work, because we like to do what's familiar.
Hmm.
So I'm
I will
curious.
say
Yeah.
though, I also wasn't comfortable doing what I was doing before. Like what I
Uh-huh.
was doing wasn't working either.
Hmm.
So it was just like I chose a discomfort that potentially had growth
Mm.
on the other side. Because where I wasn't great. I was unhappy. I was unhappy. It didn't really matter
Yeah.
what it looked like on the surface. I was like, what the heck am I doing? Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
very ups.
Yeah, I would thank you for sharing. And I think that like people still don't experiment even when they're unhappy. Like, I still think
Yeah.
there's a lot of resistance to doing something differently,
Hmm.
even when you're unhappy.
Yeah.
But when so now, as you've really seen the light, you've really seen the magic,
Hmm.
you're playing with your own magic and your own vibe and all that. So how do you decide, like, this is going to be the thing, and maybe it's time to put up the blow
Oof.
dryer.
That took a really long time. I had layers and layers of identity to kind of unpack and go through, self-worth to build, and then just also creating a story, a better story for myself, where this didn't have to be a struggle to survive. Like, because I also I tied my identity, self-worth to my job, but I also tied my survival, because before that it had been really hard. And I think for a while I painted this picture for myself, like, if you do go out as an entrepreneur, you just know you are going to struggle, and just know it is going to be hard, and just know there's might be months where money doesn't come in, and all of these things. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs say this also to like make you feel good. Like my friends that have had babies right now, they're like, okay, just so you know, right? They're like, it's going to be, but it's like, okay, yes. And that's their experience. And by the way, I'm sure I know nothing about having a baby because I don't have one, but people prep you in advance of like, this could happen, this could happen.
Right. They're
And they
like
want,
projecting their experience onto
yes,
you. Yeah.
so that you can be ready, so that you can
Right.
prepare.
Right.
But the thing that I started to realize was that the story I was telling myself about leaving was also one that had a ton of struggle. One that I had to have a ton of savings built up because I wasn't going to make money. I wasn't going to have money coming in. So I actually had to look at that and ask myself, like, is this absolutely true?
Mm.
Like, is it true that this is going to happen? And why, in your fantasies before you go to sleep at night, are you putting all your energy focusing on an outcome that you don't want versus
Mm.
reaching for one where there is ease? And I had seen at that point ease come in my life in so many different ways. And I had seen flow, and I had seen magic, and I had seen like incredible things happen. And so I just decided that my story wasn't going to be a struggle, and that even
Mm.
when it did get hard, there was always that I would find a lesson, but that I was going to have, like, I was going to have income. I just decided it. I was like, there's going to be so much money for you here. and you're going to like, it's going to be the least of your worries. And it's funny, it's actually right now, like the last thing I'm thinking about is, do I have, like, I have the money coming. I'm just like, how do I manage the workload? Do I need to hire help? Like, how do I plan all those things? The thing I was the most afraid of is actually the thing that isn't even, that is, I'm not even
Mm.
worrying about at all. So I had to get myself ready, and I basically had to find a new belief system,
Mm.
or tell myself a new story about, because I had a belief system
Mm.
about the universe and about energy and about like alignment and synchronicity and manifestation, that I could tap into when I wanted to talk about manifesting a new pair of sneakers, or my puppy, or your soulmate, or your dream job, like all of these things. Yet when I thought about going into an entrepreneur lifestyle, I immediately went back to old beliefs,
Mm.
limited beliefs, old patterns. So I had to rewrite
Mm.
all of that before I was really ready to go, because what would have happened, and I'm sure of it, was if I had left when I first felt the calling with all that baggage with me, I
Mm.
would have had all the evidence that I needed that this wasn't a good idea, and I would have struggled for the year, and ultimately might have ended up like messing this chance at entrepreneurship up and entering right back where I came from. So I knew I had a lot again inside I had to fix before I was ready to make the leap.
Yeah, and I just want to pull out too, right, that, the mindset piece and the stories, and yes, the internal work and clearing out the old, because I think sometimes people hear like mindset and it's like, that's a part of the puzzle, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
part of how do you raise your vibration? How do you actually be in the energy and not trick yourself into like, I'm just gonna like say it enough times, but you're not really
Yeah.
embodying that. So how do you embody it, right? Like how do you go from like I am attracting miracles every day to like, to really owning that belief system or whatever those mantras are, or whatever the affirmations are. Like for you, like what has that looked like? Because I think
Mm.
it's great to have tools, like people to know like there's tools for that beyond write it out 50 times, like in your journal.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing for me was just establishing a feeling of safety.
Mm.
And so really looking at, and I remember even starting this journey, I was right around this time last year, I was like really buckling down on like, girl, we got some work to do, because I could
Mm.
feel in my body I wasn't ready. And I knew ultimately where I needed to be. I could just tell I was so wobbly.
Mm.
So it started really small. But it's kind of just started with my finding and establishing my safety.
Mm.
And in moments where I didn't need anything at all. Like I remember would wake up, my puppy was still really young, so he would still sleep for the first couple hours in the morning. And I go in my living room and I would journal my morning pages. I would have like a cup of coffee. And I remember tapping into like moments of like, this is what I used to do when I was in the Upper West Side, when I was back in my broke years, when I could barely pay the rent. I'd wake up on the couch before anyone was awake, and I'd make a cup of coffee and I would sit and I'd write. And I would just find this like
Mm.
connectedness, like I had everything I needed then, I have everything I need now. And I don't like, I realize how big my net of safety is. I
Mm.
think I've always felt like I'm going to be at it 100% alone, that it's all on me, it's all
Mm.
on my shoulders, that I have to do it perfectly. And I think I just started feeling the power of like, first of all, just safe in the simple things. Like
Mm.
safe to know that like I don't need Starbucks. Like would I be uncomfortable if I could never
Mm.
go get a cup of Starbucks? Yeah. But like would I be unsafe? No. So all of these things in my
Mm.
budget that I had always looked at were like absolutely mandatory for me. I realized they were just extras. They were just like cherry on
Mm.
the sundae. I mean, above all, I wanted to be able to like pay my rent, and be able to put food on the table. And then I also realized that I wrote down a list of all the ways I could make money.
Mm.
Like if I ever needed to make money, all the ways I knew. And I was like, oh my God, I literally have so many ways. Like I could take clients, I could I could go back to waitressing. I could take hair clients and go back to waitressing. I could freelance. I can write. I was thinking about all these ways that I could bring income in, and it was a really long list. And so I started just seeing more and more evidence about the less that like I need so much less than I think I do, and I have so much more evidence that I have like more income. It's like the amount of money I could make versus the amount that the amount I think I need is getting smaller. The amount I know I can make has gotten higher. I actually couldn't screw this up if I tried. Like I
Mm.
couldn't screw this up if I tried. I'm just tied. I've been really gotten used to the way in which money has come. And the other
Mm.
thing that really helped me was the story about in the elephants. I had heard that's kind of like an old proverb, but when baby elephants are little, they get their ankle tied to a stake in the ground,
Mm.
and they try to get out, and they pull and they pull and they pull for days, and the stake and the chain are just too heavy, and they can't get released. And they're stuck. And then after a couple of days, the zookeepers like let them go back, and now every day they just strap them back onto the chain, and then they grow to be like 2, 3 ton animals who could rip the stake out of the ground like just by lifting their ankle, but they don't even try because they are so conditioned from their experience of not being able to get let go that they just don't, that they just are like, I'm stuck. And I thought about how like when I heard that story, I remember it resonated so deeply with me because I was like, I still think that I'm the baby elephant. Like
Mm.
I'm in the mindset of I'm brand new to New York. I have nowhere to live. I have nothing to my name. I don't have half the skills sets that I have right now. I have none of the experience that I have now. And I still think it like but I still think that's me. So I had to really look and kind of celebrate all the ways that I've grown, and this ties to all the ways that I thought I could make money. Like I had to
Mm.
go like look at all the things. Yeah, it honestly came down
Mm.
to feeling like a no-brainer. Like it
Mm.
started feeling like a no-brainer. And I know we always think like it's going to be the scariest thing you do. It wasn't the scariest thing I ever did. It was like the scariest thing I had to do was like say it out loud, right?
Mm.
Because that like made it a final. But it inside, I felt like I was so ready. Like I was
Mm.
so ready. And I'm glad I waited for my aligned time because the energy of being ready that I carried into my the startup of my business. Well, my business is already starting, but like the momentum that I swung into my first day in entrepreneurship was incredible. And it wasn't just that I had things lined up. It was like I'm a fully capable entrepreneur. Like I can't explain it. And I know there's so many more things I'm still gonna learn as I go. Um, but it wasn't like I wasn't there was no survival. There was
Yeah.
that had been healed.
Yeah, it's like what I'm hearing is yeah, it's like it was really embodied. Like,
Yeah.
and you really believed like this is your path and like you're gonna make it. And there's, like you said, like there was no question. Um, and I know you talked about the elephant story, but do you remember, was there any other moment? Because I think the financial piece is huge for so many people,
Hmm.
right? And I loved what you said about like, this was the way I was used to getting it.
Hmm.
And like, hard to imagine it coming in any other way and being as abundant and all that stuff. But like, is there anything else that supported you in this, in the financial, the scarcity mindset, the of letting go of what's certain, which is a corporate paycheck,
Hmm.
and to knowing in your heart of hearts, like I'm going to be fine and I can make money, and like that's not what's going to drive me, you know?
Yes, I mean, there was a lot, but I think the biggest one that stands out to me was expansion through seeing other people do it.
Mm.
So I started getting involved in some networks of people who were doing not the exact same work I'm doing, but like coaching, personal development,
Mm.
and seeing the earnings and income that they were making. And I would see like in 1 month, this woman made like more than my salary. And I was like, what? Right. And so, yes, I felt like a really small fish in a huge pond of women,
Mm.
but getting into spaces where you feel like the smallest one or the least smartest one, or like they're so incredibly expansive for you because you
Mm.
have so much to calibrate to. So being in this space and just seeing evidence pop up all the time about people who are in alignment and seeing the results, and people who are in alignment and seeing the results, and also seeing alignment and results in my own life in different ways,
Mm.
really kind of just like solidified it for me. Like, this is going to happen. And if I can just lean back into the knowingness and stop trying to figure out the how for me, it's all going to happen. And
Mm.
like every time I look back at my life, everywhere I was where I tried to like figure out exactly the how, that's where I always ended up getting off track. But it's
Mm.
just like if I when I wanted to do the TED Talk, if I would have obsessed over like, how am I going to do this TED Talk, and started looking up TED Talks and like putting my application in, it probably never would have happened. But the truth is, an email dropped right in my inbox because my company was hosting and said, "Do you want to do one?" I was like, "Yes, I do." It was right there. So I just, and that's one example, but I had seen so
Mm.
much evidence of just like holding the frequency for what I want, um, and then it happening without me having to do the legwork of figuring out the how.
Mm. Oh, I love that. I love this. I love this. I'm so excited to for people to hear your message, like the folks that are on now and the folks that will watch later, because it's so powerful. And so I guess my question is, right, we this whole conversation is around how our magic is, our energy. And so I want to know what exactly does that mean for you? I mean, we've been talking about it, certainly in it and around it. But then the
Yeah.
other piece is like, right, if we know that like being in a high vibration, right, serves us,
Mm-hmm.
um, then like what do you do when you're just in the crapper? You know,
Mm.
like
Yeah.
like how do you honor how you're feeling? Also stay high vibration, or like how do you get out of spirals where you start to be in scarcity? Like I don't know, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that high vibration is kind of a complicated term, because I think people like they
Yeah.
hear that and they think like exactly what you said, like I'm either in or I'm out. And when I'm out, I'm doing incredible detriment to myself. And so I heard someone say this recently, but they were like, like big, um, maybe big, like be in a big vibration. It doesn't have to necessarily like be
Mm,
high or low, but just like,
yes.
just be big, just be in your. But for me, it was really came back to whether high or low. It came back to recognizing that like how I'm being in the world is is going to impact the outcome every single time. And
Mm,
I can be sad, I can be frustrated, I can be all of those things, but it's like, can I allow myself to feel that and honor it and look at it like either it's something I need space to be with, or it's something that I need to heal,
mm,
instead of judging it, pushing it away, trying to immediately distract myself with something else. Like when I'm sad, can I just be sad and not have to like run on Instagram and scroll through my feed and try to bring myself back up? And can I look at what's there?
mm,
Because all the opportunities for me that I never found in transformation actually came up when I was triggered or when I was feeling emotional.
mm,
And it's just like, can I just be with her? Like, can I really have empathy and love her? And I feel the faster you like, it's like if
mm,
you're, if you're sick and you don't allow yourself to be sick and you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, you're not going to heal. But if you are like really not feeling well and you're like, tonight, I'm going to tuck myself in. I'm going to make myself chicken soup. I'm going to give myself a pot of tea. I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to take a nice warm bath. And then if I don't, or sleep in late and then wake up and take a nice warm bath and have a cup of tea and take the whole day off, you'll probably feel better within the next day. I try to do that
mm,
for myself now. I'm like, I need
mm,
something, and I need to heal, and I need to see what's there, and I need to care and nurture. And then when I'm feeling back to myself again, like I'm going to celebrate and I'm going to be in my big vibration and I'm going to share it with other people. And I also don't have to show up perfectly to be there either. Like I don't
mm,
have to either be like in or out. It's more just like being myself, like checking my intentions and making sure that like if I'm there and I'm in a big vibration, it's genuine. I'm not like putting on a big vibration show for me, for the
mm,
other people, for the universe. I'm not pretending, but I'm just in my authenticity. And I firmly believe that like honoring our feelings is one of the most powerful things we can do. And it will never, ever, ever, you know, deter the universe from sending you something. It's
mm,
just, it's just a sign that you know how to be emotionally intelligent, And honestly, knowing how to honor your feelings probably sets you up for bigger opportunities and bigger manifestations, because it shows that you know how to handle when things go well and when things don't go well, and that you know how to care for yourself. Because I got to tell you, new level, new devil, there's always something else. Like I will
Mm.
always require more of my own love, even as I get bigger and my business grows. Like I got to be more emotionally intelligent about how I handle my bad days. And I'm sure they'll come. But it's just like you have it, you heal it, and then you get right back up, and you don't make it a story about you. You don't make it a story about anything else. You just like, you handle yourself, you care for her, you love her, and then you get right back on board.
Can I just say like mic drop on all that right there? Like just mic drop. Like I am just I'm so gosh, it just lights me up that this is what you're doing 24/7. Well, not 24/7, but you know what I mean? Like that this is the message you're sharing with the world, and I'm so freaking excited for you to get big, big, big. I'm talking like Oprah star status. I'm talking like share these
Oh my,
messages. Like, no, I'm so serious because people need to hear this, People like, and I need to hear it. Like, let me just be honest, and this idea of I think that this beautiful thread of like feel what you're feeling and let yourself do it, because I think my own personal journey, and I think the journey of so many who have been through hardship, who have been through the fire and don't want to go back to feeling that way, but sometimes things come up in our life, we're triggered, whatever it is. We have to allow that feeling, and there's so much power in that. And like you said, it's not about judgment, because the judgment on top of feeling like crap just
right.
amplifies that, right?
Yeah.
And so, I think it just makes me really think of this idea of, for those of you who are feeling stuck, who are feeling like you're not ready for whatever leap of faith it is, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a career, whether it's a
Mhm.
home, that it's okay to be where you are, and
Yeah.
to know that, like, keep coming back to you,
Yeah.
keep doing that exploration, and you'll get there. And just be patient with yourself. I feel like that's so much of what I'm pulling out of what you're sharing.
Oh, you're so right. I love that. Like you dig in, because when you feel unready, there's a reason why.
There's some
And it's
work to
okay.
do,
There's
right?
work, yes,
Like,
and just
yeah.
look at it. Like, what is it? And one of the things I started doing was writing down for myself. I would say, what am I afraid will happen when I get what I want? That was the
Mm,
fastest way for me to understand what was really there,
mm,
because I would have something I wanted, but deep down inside of me there was so much fear about receiving it
mm,
that I would not, like, obviously I wasn't open to receive it if I wanted it, but like my subconscious level wasn't ready for it. So I would look at like, what am I so afraid will happen when I have my own company? And boom, like a slew of fears would start to come up. Like, oh, I'm afraid financial. I'm afraid people aren't going to like me. I'm afraid that I'm not going to make like intelligent decisions. Like, I would find so many things. And it's like, all right, well, then that's where we have to go. If we want this, this is the stuff that we got to either become okay with, or we need to heal in order to get there. Because, by the way, when you get the thing you want, like there's always the flip side. And so sometimes you do have to ask yourself, like, yeah, I could have something that goes really wrong. Like I could start
mm.
getting haters on Instagram, which I've already experienced that. Like you could start to
Check.
have people who don't like what you're doing. Right.
Right.
And it's like, am I ready to handle that?
Mm,
If the answer is no, you probably are not ready for the thing
mm,
that you're trying to manifest. And then I'd look at like, why? What does it, what
mm,
does it mean for me if I feel like I can't handle one insult? Like, so yeah, doing the digging is so important. And I just don't run from it. Just don't
mm,
run from the reasons why. Just look at them. Just look
mm,
at them. Just be with them, and like they'll tell you everything you need to know.
mm. Yeah, that is some good sound advice. And I cannot believe we're at the top of the hour. I'm like, oh
I
my
know, this
God,
went by so fast.
I'm like, I need an extra hour here. Like we have. But you're an entrepreneur and you're building your empire, and so time is valuable. So in closing, I have two questions. Number one is there anything else you feel compelled to share that didn't come up that you want people to know? And number two is how can people find you and work with you and be in your magic?
Well, thank you so much. You are an excellent host. I think I feel like our conversation has just gone like exactly where it needed to. So I feel so full in terms of the content. And to find me, I have a podcast called Meeting Your Magic. My company is Meeting Your Magic, and that's on Instagram as well. And I'm also pretty active on my own account, Kiera with Love. I think we're on Kiera with Love right now. Um, and I have like links. I have all the links if you click in my bio, so you can find anything you need there.
Great, great. And so you work with people in a group setting, you work with people one on one, like is that evolving? Like,
It is evolved. There's so many like cool things that are going to be coming out. But right now I'm in the process of finishing up a human design reader training. So I'm actually training people to read human design through Meeting Your Magic. So I'm going to have some readers out there in the world, and I'll be doing that again. So this is
yeah.
like round one of many. I will have some group programs coming out soon, and I still do one-on-one readings, but they are more longer form sessions now. So I'm moving away from just the short human design readings and moving into like 3-month containers so that we can focus on, and transform. And I'm opening up my books for that in December. So if you're interested, send me a DM. I'm taking on just a couple special people to go to the moon and the stars with, and I'm so excited.
Oh.
And season 2 of Meeting Your Magic will be back soon as well. So you can expect to see a lot more of that from me.
Oh my God, that's all sounds amazing. And I just have to acknowledge, like the very first thing, right? You literally like your last job day on the job was early October, and
Yeah.
the very first thing that you did was create a program for other people to do what you do. If that is not a mindset of abundance, if that is not in service to the world, then oh my God, it just gives me chills just to really think about what that really means. To say like you're starting
Wow.
your business and you're giving the gift so other people can do it too. It's like,
Yeah.
dang girl,
And they're
you
all going to
you
do it in their own way. They're going to be amazing.
yeah. Yeah, because there's
I'm so
enough
excited.
enough space in the universe for everybody to do their magic, right?
Oh yeah, we need it. And I have to say, thank you for that. If you would have told me last year that I was going to do that, I would have had a lot of fear in my body because I would have felt like
Mm,
what makes me special is that I'm the only one. For a long time, I was like the only
mm,
reader anyone knew or could find, and that's what made me so great was that I was the one.
mm,
And so to actually realize I had reached a point where I was like ready to share and bring some new people up, I had to find a lot more value in me
mm,
and the way I do things. And it really just comes back to like we're all there, no matter who you are or what it is that you're looking to do or where you are in your journey, you have a unique voice that's going to reach someone that like, and there's a specific group of people that are meant just to have you, just to meet you. And when we see no one doing what we want to do, we say, oh, it's impossible because no one's doing it. And then when we see a couple people playing in our space, we go, oh, well, now I can't because those people are doing it, right? So like, which one, where can we be? I
right.
firmly believe there's like enough space for everyone in the world. Like if you feel called to read human design, like good, because we need more people. I would love everyone in the world to know their human design and how to operate energetically. It has changed my life, like,
Mm.
and so many lives of my clients. And I'm ready for it to be more accessible and for more people to know. And yeah, I can't be the best because I'm the only one. And I don't want to be the best anyways. My mentor, Melanie Ann Layer, says, I just want to be one of the greats. I just want to
Mm.
be one of the greats.
Oh man, well you definitely are, and I'm super excited that like my Tuesday has included you today. Like I feel
Oh,
like,
me too.
oh my God, I'm so excited for what's to come, and I look forward to more of these conversations. You're going to be a regular guest of mine. That's just been decided. And yeah, for all of you, again, meetingyourmagic.com, meeting your magic on Instagram, etc. Please continue to be in touch with Kiera and her magic. And I look forward to the next time and to just celebrating with you all the milestones as you go on this path of full-time entrepreneurship.
Thank you so much, Tasca. And just reiterate for everyone who's listening, like this woman helped me get here with her encouraging words and holding space for me. So like I'm honored to be back on Talk About It Tuesday. Thank you so much. And I've seen so many of my friends pop on here. So if you don't already, make sure to give Tasca a follow. She is so
Yeah.
inspirational. She's like a mentor to me. So if you if you consider me to be a mentor in your life, let's go straight to take it straight to the source.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
and thank you so much for having me. Maybe next time we'll bring the pup. We'll do a puppy talk on
Yes, I
Tuesday.
know. I had to lock the puppy out because I was like, we can't be disturbed. Yes,
She
next
needs
time
to meet
puppies and
Leo.
all. Yes,
Yeah.
I know. We need to do that. Yes, let's plan it. Oh my
All
gosh. Well,
right.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
All of that. So thank you. And until next time, ciao for now, guys.
Bye, everyone.